Morning.
Let me just take a moment and just revel in your beauty. Y'all are an incredible community, and I'm just so honored to be here with you this morning. I want to take a moment, first of all, correct Audrey. We were not in ministerial school together. No, she didn't lie. She just stretched it a little bit, because the reason why I want to do this is because I want to honor Audrey for the part that she played in my ministerial development. I actually went to the Phil licensing program, and Audrey was on that committee. And she wasn't my direct sponsor, but she was in groups when I'd go back up to Kansas City. A couple times you sat on like the yearly reviews, and her presence was always one of deep inspiration and support for me. I mean, her poise, her deep knowledge of principle. So even though we didn't have like direct ongoing contact, the fact that she was in my field truly helped shape who I am today. So I just want to take a moment and honor that. Let me give you a statistic. 80% of ministers are out of the pulpit within 5 years. Audrey has been here for 23 years. Yeah. So we're really honoring her for that and celebrate the transition that you all are going through as she now steps into her next expansive stage, and you are making welcome that leader which will help you step into your next expansive stage. And also to acknowledge that you are a spiritual community that has been able to support a leader for 23 years. That says a lot about the consciousness of this community. So, thank you. Yeah. All right. Last January, I was in the San Francisco Bay Area. I have two brothers up in that area, which is one of the reasons why I moved out to California last week. I'm going to talk more about my process this afternoon and the ongoing expansion of spirit, as I shared in my meditation this morning, that this stuff doesn't stop, that we don't get this, it keeps growing and expanding within us. And so last January, I was out in San Francisco, hanging out with my younger brother Pete in San Rafael. They were still off from, love San Rafael. Kids were still off on Friday, so we were looking for something to do. So we all decided to pile in the van and head to the House of Air. It's this warehouse just covered with trampolines. So we spent an hour jumping. How many of you have ever spent an hour on a trampoline? Yes. You work up an appetite. So after we got done jumping, we all piled in the van to go get something to eat. And so what I do now, so I turned around and I looked at my two nieces and their friends. My nieces are 8 and 11, and they had friends with them. And I said, hey girls, what do you dream about when you get older? That van became electric. My 11-year-old niece, Ramona, speaks up and she said, well, I want to be a princess. Her friend Sarah said, well, I want to be a professional skier, and then I want to be a photographer. Veronica in the back speaks up and says, well, I want to be a singer. And then her friend said, well, I want to be a veterinarian. Well, then they all started playing off of each other, because then Ramona says, well, I want to be a princess in Cinderella's castle. And Sarah said, well, I want to be a professional photographer, and I want to ski, and I want to take pictures while I'm skiing, and then I want to go to Africa. And I mean, and so I just stepped back and just listened, because they had that ball rolling. The van literally just lit up with life and possibility in the presence of this youth. Now, fast forward a couple days later, when I'm having a conversation that I have to explore working with people, and I'm going to be offering that this afternoon for those of you who come to the workshop. And I'm sitting with a woman on the phone, and I'm asking her the same question. What do you dream about? What brings you alive? Her response, this is so hard. This is so hard. Nobody's ever asked me that before. Somewhere along the line, we get our capacity to really dream big My mind is the center of divine operation. And divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression. Somewhere along the line, we get taught to dial it down. We get taught to look at conditions to determine what's possible for us. Doesn't mean that we don't experience a level of success. Every single one of you, every single one of us in this room, we have experienced a level of success. But somewhere along the line, we've been taught that once we get to a certain level, that that's really all we should expect. What if I told you that our dreams were Spirit's way of expanding in richer, fuller ways by means of us? That it's not even about the dream, but in reality, it's about who we grow into in the process of bringing our dreams alive. That what they're really about is growing us even more and more and more into this incredible, divine, potentialed being that we are created to be. And that this process never stops. This process never stops. Now, if I were in the South, which I was for a long time, which, by the way, I grew up in Wisconsin, so I, too, am from the Midwest. Spent a long time in the South. But this would be about the time that I would be asking for some amens. So, can I get away with that here? Yeah, thank you. So, we were created to thrive. Thriving is natural. Wealth in all areas is natural. We can look to nature to see it as our example. How many of you garden? Okay. And so you're starting right about now. And I'm sure that some of you are starting to put things in the ground. How many of y'all plant tomatoes? Okay. So when you walk out to your garden with the tomato plant, the tomato seed, and you're putting it in the ground, you're expecting come August, right, a healthy tomato. That's the promise that's designed into that seed. You wouldn't be wasting your time if you didn't believe that you were going to be getting a healthy tomato plant and a healthy tomato. You also understand that there's a formula. And that if you don't follow the formula, you won't get a healthy plant. What's the formula? Water, sunshine, nutrients, air. I taught third grade for a number of years. We did the experiment back then when they took the milk cartons, we put one in the cupboard, we put one in a plastic bag, we put a seed in without any dirt. We understand that that plant takes certain elements in order to grow into a healthy tomato. It's no different than us. We were created to thrive. Every single one of us has designed within us the pattern of thriving. The difference with the tomato plant is that the tomato plant has a life cycle. That you get a healthy tomato and the plant dies and then next year you start all over with a new plant. Our capacity to thrive is infinite. That it just keeps expanding and expressing fully. My mind is the center of divine operation. And divine operation is always, not sometimes, not occasionally, not from time to time, always for fuller expansion, for expansion and fuller expression. So if we were designed to thrive, and it's repeatable, because a tomato plant, you know, if you do that formula, you will repeat the results over and over and over, correct? It means the same for us, that there is a formula, and the formula is repeatable. And we're going to go more deeply into that formula this afternoon and look at what happens with the repetition of the formula in order to create a more expansive, fuller expressed you. Now, as I get into the formula, I am speaking to the choir. I know the depth of Audrey's understanding. And I know that those of you that have been coming for a while, what you're going to hear is not going to be new. Spiritual law is spiritual law. Here's the difference. As I have done deep, deep, deep work with Mary Morrissey for almost the last 3 years, and I have had the honor of working with her in a very close capacity. In fact, she decided to do an experiment about a year ago where she handpicked 9 women to see what would happen if she poured herself into these 9 women for the year, and I had the opportunity to be chosen to have a seat at that table. Now, the reason I share that is, number one, to demonstrate the level of investment that I put in myself to support people in their dreams, and also to help you understand. I've been a student of this stuff for 30 years. Mary has been a student of this stuff for, I don't know, 40, well, she's over 40 years. Her depth of study is astounding. Her results, which she continues to produce in her life, is absolutely inspiring. And that's what I have taken on. And she has very lovingly spanked me on a number of occasions when I have said, Mary, I know that. And she would say, no, you don't. You don't know that. You know it when your results show it. And when our results consistently show it. I now study with Bob Proctor, and I was on the phone with him the other day in a group coaching situation. His goal this year is $100 million. Now, let's look at what that means. When you think of $100 million in terms of generating revenue, think of the people that he's touching with the message that he's communicating, the lives that he's changing. And what he does, he's been studying this stuff for over 50 years. And he studies the same piece of work every single day. Think and grow rich. Think and grow rich. Think and grow rich. The reason I lay all this out is to help remind myself that my understanding of this is infinite. I will never reach the bottom, and I will never reach the point where I am no longer demonstrating the power of our capacity. And the people that I have put myself at the feet at are just incredible examples of what it is to stay in this study and to continue to demonstrate and contribute, which, by the way, is one and the same. That our demonstration is our contribution, over and over and over, at richer and fuller expressions. Y'all with me? Okay, so here's the formula. First step in the formula is to understand that we are incredible creative creatures. We have the capacity to create anything we desire. Let me say that again. We have the capacity to create anything we desire. Anything. I'm going to get more into that this afternoon. Our thinking capacity is our creative capacity. This incredible capacity that we have to think into possibilities, to imagine something so much more expansive than anything we've ever experienced before. This is our sacred gift and responsibility. Let me read from Wallace Wattles, The Science of Getting Rich, which, by the way, I had such an allergy to this book. I mean, just the title alone, The Science of Getting Rich. How crass is that? But you know, Mary gave me an instruction to work with this book. I followed instructions, and it was life-changing. This is what he says. We assert that there is one original formless stuff or substance from which all things are made. All the seemingly many elements are but different presentations of one element. All the many forms found in organic and inorganic natures are but different shapes made from the same stuff. There's only one stuff. What is that stuff? Spirit. Everything generates from spirit. In the beginning was spirit. Spirit didn't have anything to create with but itself. So when spirit created us, and we generate from spirit, we have the same creative capacity within our own individualized being as spirit does. Can y'all hear the power of those words? You know, yes, exactly. Exactly. Our capacity to create, our capacity to imagine. He goes on, a thought and thinking stuff produces shapes. Man is a thinking center, capable of original thought. We're creative. If man can communicate his thought to original thinking substance, he can cause the creation or the formation of the things he thinks about. It's not if, it's we are. We're always using our creative capacity. Our creative capacity is whatever it is that we are showing across this wonderful tool that we have called the movie screen of our mind. Most of the time we use it to terrorize ourselves. Right? We don't understand that we've got the power to change the picture. We have the power to truly imagine and think anything you want to think. I love listening to Bob. He's so funny. I got on and got some coaching from him, and I was sharing, and we're going to talk about paradigms, because this is what gets in our way. Those old belief systems that say we can only have this much good. It's amazing the power that we give those things to keep us from really stepping in to our full capacity. And Bob, just straightforward, said, quit thinking that. Just quit thinking that. You got to stop thinking that and replace it with something else. If we truly understood the power of our thinking, we would treat this so reverently. So reverently. What have you been thinking this morning? What has been the predominant thought pattern that you have allowed to occupy this holy space? That's what you're creating. So, if we really got that we have the capacity to create anything we desire, we would understand that the highest calibrated question that we can ask ourselves is, what would I love? What would I love? What would I love to do? What would I love to be? What would I love to have? And ultimately, what would I love to contribute? We understand that we are creative beings and our thinking capacity is our creative capacity. As we understand this, then we understand that there is something wanting to express by means of us in a richer, fuller way. The way we discover what that is to tap in to the source of love. Spirit's language is love. And so Spirit communicates its desire to express in a richer, fuller way in this physical realm through the answer to that question. What would I love? And to get very lasered in our answer, to get very specific in the details. And again, we're going to go deeper into that this afternoon. But here's what happens for those folks that are unaware and are not equipped to address this part of us. The instant you start asking that question, there's this voice that starts dogging at your heels. It's the voice of your paradigm. It is the voice of your current normal. Well, how in the world are you going to do that? Who do you think you are? You're too old, you're too young, you're the wrong sex, you're the wrong sexual orientation, you live in the wrong part of the country, you don't have the right education, you're not smart enough, you're too smart, you don't know how to dance. It gets really creative. But here's what I love about desire, because that's what this is. This is your desire. Let me read from H. Emily Cady, where she talks about desire. And this is Lessons in Truth, Unity, just a Unity classic. She says, desire in the heart is always God tapping at the door of your consciousness with his infinite supply. Now, I have read that over and over and over. I preached this, I taught it, I did several series on Unity FM with Laura Beth Gilbert and Hooked on Classics. So I thought I had a basic understanding of that line, and I continue to deepen my understanding of that line, but it's the next one that within the last several months really caught my attention. He said, a supply that is forever useless unless there be a demand for it. A supply that is forever useless. Who turned on the lights this morning? Were you here first, or was somebody else here?
No, I wasn't.
Who was here first? How'd you turn the light? Tell me your name. Erin. Erin, how'd you turn the lights on? She flipped the switch. We treat that so... All right, here's the thing. We treat that so casually. 200 years ago, we didn't have that ability. We didn't have that capacity. We had to light a lantern or a candle. Here's the thing. We had the capacity. We didn't have the ability, but we had the capacity. We didn't invent electricity. We discovered the laws of electricity and we put them in service to a higher idea. And today, we flippantly flip the switch. There is something so profound in you that is waiting to be expressed so you can put a demand on infinite supply that right now is laying useless because we haven't allowed our thinking to expand into that new possibility. Somebody had to think bigger than a lantern or a candle. You are being invited to think bigger into whatever your current conditions are in this moment. No matter how expansive they are up until this point. Remember, my mind is the center of divine operation, and divine operation is when? Always. Now. Always. For fuller expression and expansion. So this afternoon we're going to get much deeper into the formula. You begin to ask the question, what would I love? You start learning how to adjust the paradigm that wants to keep you right where you are. Your system is so conditioned for your level of good that when you start thinking bigger, you literally get nervous. Let me give you an example. I want everybody to think of what your highest annual income has been up until this point. I don't care if it's been, $50,000, $500,000, $5 million. Whatever your highest level of annual income, I want everybody to think of it right now. Does anybody have it in mind? Now multiply it 10 times. All right, notice the reaction. Notice the reaction. That's that nervous system saying, whoa, wait a minute. Too much good. Gravitational pull, pulling you back. And that's just an example with your annual income. Imagine if you're doing what you love. You're contributing at that level, and you increase your annual income 10 times the level of good that you are bringing into this world. That's what we're going to talk about this afternoon. All right, so I've got stories, but I'll save them for this afternoon. So here's your homework. I encourage you to come to the workshop this afternoon. Regardless of how long you've been around this stuff, I promise you I will take you into a deep dive of the power of this. That I have really made it my life's mission to deepen and laser my expertise to really help you live from a vision-directed life. Some of you may think you have plans this afternoon. I promise you that if you change your plans and you come this afternoon, you will hear something that, when applied consistently, will change the trajectory of your life. In addition, I want you to really sit with this affirmation. My mind is a center of divine operation, and divine operation is always for expansion and fuller expression. Begin to think into the question, what would I love? Notice the thought process that wants to derail that, and get support. We were not meant to do this alone. As you get clear about your vision, bring it to church with you. Listen to the brilliance of Audrey and her depth of understanding of spiritual principle. Apply it to your vision. Whoever comes in next, whoever you all attract in, we triple over this stuff every time we walk into a Unity church. Let's start really dialing up the volume on our capacity to demonstrate what incredible, divine, potential-filled beings every single one of us are. And then track your results. Notice how Spirit continuously shows up. All right, so let me close with this. Alfred Adler, famed psychologist, says that he gives thanks for the idea that uses him. I give thanks for the dream, the more expanded version of you that is seeking to express by means of you. Because here's what I know, that when you say yes, and you say yes, and you say yes, and you say yes, not only are you blessed, but I'm blessed, and the entire planet is blessed. See you this afternoon.